My name is Jillian Bateman. I'm ESA's Chief Development Officer, and I'm going to be facilitating today's webinar. I hope you're having a great work day. It's almost Friday. Thank you for joining us on today's ESA webinar, Meet Your Annual Budget Goals in 2020. The profitability of your business depends on two key variables: the revenue you have coming in and the expenses you have going out. Security industry business owners must retain control in order to stay afloat in today's market. That is why ESA has put together an industry-specific purchasing platform that saves its members an average of $10,000 each year. In this webinar, you will discover how this program works for small, medium, and large businesses, and what purchases we have covered through ESA's case studies of actual members. We'll also hear directly from ESA's Member Savings Program Specialist and Consultant, Mark Schiavone, about how the ESA Savings Program has helped members meet their annual budget goals and how he's preparing to help members save even more in 2020. And we'll learn how we can tailor the program around your business's needs and how we can confidently guarantee a decrease in spending and an increase in ROI through this powerful member benefit. Again, I will be facilitating today's webinar, and I'm going to hand it over to our experts in just a moment. But before I do, I have a few practical notes about what you can expect in today's interactive session for those first timers joining us. All callers will be muted for the duration of our webinar, but that does not mean we don't want to hear from you. At any time, feel free to ask a question by clicking into that section of your control panel. No need to save them until the end. If something pops up, go ahead and ask your question, and we'll ensure we have some time to address them with our experts. We'll also be recording today's webinar, so you can rewatch the on-demand video at your leisure. You will all receive an email tomorrow thanking you for your attendance, and that email will include a link to the on-demand video. Feel free to share this with other employees and with industry peers. In your control panel, you'll see a set of windows, one for slide content and one for speaker sharing video. Hello. At any time, just click one of the screens and it'll become larger for you so you can see that at a better view. We at ESA realize your time is valuable and we appreciate you spending some of that time with us today. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you our Business Development Executive, Sophia Dominguez. Take it away, Sophia.
Hey guys, thanks for joining today. And we were having a little bit of some technological difficulty. So Mark, did you make it on here?
I believe I did. Can you hear me?
Oh, awesome. Sure can. Okay, great. So we are live and ready to go. And again, thank you guys for joining us. We're going to kind of go ahead and just get into it since we kind of started a little bit late here. We're really excited to really kind of unfold the MSP and show you guys how it is extremely profitable. Definitely provides those positive ROIs to your return on investment for your membership. And hear directly from Mark to talk a little bit more about what he's, conversing with company owners about and what they're really saving on and how they're budgeting going into the next year. Let's go ahead and kind of get to it with some stats. So what's in your wallet? Now, 30% of businesses fail because the owner runs out of money. That is definitely concerning. Over 82% of businesses fail because of cash flow problems. So when we're talking about profit and revenue and expenditures and cash flow is going to be talking about really not just what's coming in, but what's going out, what's in your wallet. Obviously, the money that comes in, if you are not managing those expenditures well, you're not able to, again, reinvest that money back to your company. Now, 40% of small businesses are profitable, 30% break even, and 30% are continually losing money. Definitely that's concerning for our businesses too. With technology booming and having to keep up with the consumer-driven needs and the requirements, and really with the consumer wanting more to be packaged into their services, to be able to reinvest that and provide more to your customers, being able to definitely move that money around, take your profits and put that towards, being able to continue to be competitive is absolutely crucial. And these are conversations that I'm having constantly with companies, and not just really how to grow, but how to maintain. And again, taking a look at what you're currently spending on, saving wherever you can, so that you can continue to see that momentum really driven, not just in your clientele, but also in your company's wallet. So good news, those were kind of some very stark stats that we had. Good news is a third of businesses will survive 10 years. Now, we actually see more companies opening than closing right now, not just really overall in the throughout the economy, but also in the security industry. Definitely, I see a lot of companies that are just starting up. Some technicians who have gone kind of rogue and started their own company. Also some that have been in the business, in the industry for 30, 40 years, but now kind of branching off. And also some companies that are trying to be more fluid and coming outside of the industry. So coming from, areas like IT, networking, structured cabling. So, the good news is you can see a positive survivability rate for 10 years, but what are those challenges that you're going to face? This is from the 2017 State of Small Business Report. Now, for those that don't know, and you guys probably already know, small business is technically considered those that have under 500 employees. So really the core and the base of our membership, with that definition are small businesses. And you'll kind of see that those challenges, while they are the same across the spectrum, so 5 to 10 employee companies, 11 to 50, 51 to 100, there's definitely some variation in those challenges that they're seeing, and how weighted they are within the framework of their company. So the wonderful thing about this MSP is that it is customizable. It is form fitted around companies that have different needs, that are in a different geographical location, and that are facing different challenges. So increasing profit, growing revenue, cash flow, also having to maintain really employer driven needs. Definitely costs some money to invest, not just in your employees, but also to find new employees and to keep those employees. Retention is huge. If you tuned into my last webinar, we talked about the top 3 industry specific challenges right now, and employee quality professionals, finding them, keeping them was amongst those top 3. So again, these are very economically driven. Obviously, it takes money to spend, it takes money to grow, and it takes money to survive. So let's kind of get into how we're going to save you some money. Touching on this, cash is gasoline for your business. It's the lubricant that keeps all the parts working. This isn't something that I'm telling you that's new. You guys already know this. If you're joining today, you're already spending money, receiving money. You see that revenue, you see that profit, or you see it dwindling. So for those that just need some of a formal definition, profit is revenue minus your expenses. It's what is left over when you subtract what it costs to run your business from what you're charging your customers. So I have conversations that are really geared a lot around those business expenditures, those costs that companies within our industry are constantly paying out for. So whether it's training or licensing, whether it's uniforms, gas, fleet management, shipping, office supplies, credit card processing fees, and really all of those things that I just listed are what we're going to get into and what this program really is surrounded around. Profit is only part of the success story. That's true. You can be receiving X amount of dollars, but if you're spending more than that amount, then obviously you're in the red. So let's kind of see how we're saving you guys. Some more stats. Typical capital expenditures made. We're seeing a pretty heavy weight in vehicles, equipment, whether it's tools for your business, or vehicles, not just purchasing those vehicles and obtaining those assets, but also maintaining them. So fuel again, location, furniture, fixtures, buildings, and some of these more, pressing problems. This is from the Small Business Optimism Index, and took a pretty large poll of small business owners and showed, what was really pressing them, not just currently, but going into the next year. And you kind of see, taxes, poor sales, cost of labor, government regulations and those effects. So, I'm sure you guys were tuned in to some of the most recent, tariffs on some of the products that our industry, not just manufactures, but purchases. Those, that had an impact on our industry specifically. All right, now I can, kind of converse a little bit with Mark. That's why, I was really excited to bring him on, because he has been doing this for quite some time. He works, face to face, really directly with our members, with business owners, executives, all across the country, from every corner and really every facet of this industry. So our member savings program, and this is actually a two-sided coin. We have one portal that is specific for your B2B transactions. So your business to business. So things like, again, fuel, credit card processing, payroll services, shipping, freight, both inbound and outbound, office supplies, really things that are, at the core of running your business. Now, the other side of the coin is going to be our B2C side, so our business to consumer side. We'll definitely get into that here in a little bit, but I want to, kind of pass it off to you, Mark. We kind of have a great, little general outline right here as to what the MSP is. Can you kind of tell me from your words, like what is it? How is our ESA members, utilizing it right now, and what are some of the things that you're hearing?
Sure, be happy to, Sophia. Thanks very much for the opportunity to join you folks today. Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Schiavone. I started the member savings program a little over 17 years ago. And it was born out of working in the cable television industry, where a number of contractors were always talking to me when I worked for DirecTV about getting more money, because times were, in their opinion, a little tough and they wanted to be paid more. So essentially what I asked them is, are you running a good, efficient business yourself? Are you aggregating your purchases on things like cable that every single one of them utilized in putting in and servicing DirecTV in your homes? So at the end of the day, the answer was no. And it became very obvious to me that we didn't have to pay them more money, but they could help themselves by banding together and start purchasing a lot of the common products and services they all needed to run their business together to drive down their costs. So that's a little background. A question you must be asking is, how can you bring real meaningful discounts to the table so that we can save money for our business? And the answer to that is, we serve, myself as well as 3 other partner companies, work with over 200 trade associations, including the ESA. And through that, we literally market to over 200,000 businesses and have a great number of those participating with the program. So when we talk to vendors like ADP and Office Depot, Hewlett Packard, et cetera, there's some real volume. We actually did over $200 million with one particular vendor last year, and that's meaningful to them. So they sharpen their pencil pretty well for us, so that we can pass those savings on to you as a member. So that's the reason the discounts are real and not, a marketing ploy, so to speak. So as Sophia said, we can customize programs for you. We have over 30 different business products and services that we have deals with and discounts on that you can access. Some may be appropriate, like payroll for some of you. Some you may do your own payroll, so that may not work for you. But overall, with all of the programs we offer, you're definitely going to find many products and services that you can utilize. Matter of fact, one of Sophia's slides she went over was about gasoline being kind of that cash and profitability is the gasoline of your business. And gasoline is something we all use, especially in the security business, having trucks going to homes, et cetera. And we have a deal with WEX, which is the rebranded Right Express, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. And Their cards can be used at about 98% of the gasoline stations in the United States. So that's a no-brainer right there. Hewlett-Packard for your computer needs and accessories. Many products and services you can use. In terms of showing you the money, the slide on the screen right now shows you what the average, and mind you, an average is an average, so there's going to be some that save a lot more than this and some that save less. But the savings are very large on credit card processing, payroll processing, shipping, obviously, operational supplies such as tools, safety equipment, generators, ladders, etc., and uniforms. So the overall savings is about $10,000 for the average member. Now, I'd like you to think about that for a second, because when I have conversations with people and talk about that number, usually they go, oh, okay, that's great. If we can save $10,000 a year on things we're going to buy anyway, that'd be nice. But to be honest with you, they don't get overly excited. But I say, what if I wrote you a purchase order for $100,000? Ooh, all of a sudden their eyebrows raise, and now I've got their attention and they're very interested, because that sounds like a really big number, which it is. And I say to them, what if your operating cash flow margin, not to get invasive about your business, but what if your operating cash flow margin is 10%? And obviously you guys can work the numbers based on your own situation. I said, if I saved you $10,000 this year, wouldn't that really be the same equivalency mathematically as writing a purchase order for $100,000 if you have a 10% operating cash flow margin? And they think about it a second, and obviously you do the math, it's the same thing. So bringing your expenses down on items you already purchased is a really quick way to increase your profitability.
Now, Mark, and that's great too. And I kind of want to, we chatted about this before, you know, and I think both you and I hear oftentimes, you know, I don't want to change or switch from the vendor I'm currently using, you know, and you kind of mentioned it right now. You know, just for pennies, they don't see the long-term value, that they don't see the big picture, that they see it as too much of you know, too much trouble to change vendors to save, you know, only $500 or $700 or even just $1,000. You know, is that what you're hearing? And is this kind of that number that you're giving back to them and showing them, you know, really how that adds up?
It does. And the other thing that comes into play here is we have a number of vendors, ADP, UniFirst Uniforms, Office Depot, Hewlett-Packard, et cetera, that if you currently use them, you can raise your hand and say, I'd like to participate in the ESA member savings program with you all, and they will allow that. So there are many times you don't even have to switch vendors. You just have to say, if the pricing is better, I want to go under that program. So you can switch to some vendors, and there are other vendors you may be using you don't have to switch. But as Sophia said, it adds up. $200 here, $500, $1,000 there. All of a sudden you get to that $10,000 number, which is some, you know, nice money, some additional profitability for your business without doing a heck of a lot. We also have savings consultants that get in touch with you and connect you to these programs. So we try to make this as seamless as possible for you and as little work as there is for you. But if you could save $10,000 a year for the next 5 years, now we're talking about $50,000 that you've saved on things you're going to buy anyway. So so it pays to take just a little time. Doesn't take a lot. Take a little time to focus on this. And I'll just give you one really quick example. Many times people will call us or email us and say, I've got an issue. Can you help me out with this particular scenario? And the answer is yes, but you need to supply us, let's say in credit card processing, your statements so that we can give you an accurate quote. And many times what happens is the company, the people in the company, they're busy, we're all busy, and they don't take that next step to send us or email us those statements. Well, without that, we can't really go forward and give a quote and start saving money. So the one thing I would say is if you take just a little time up front, it really pays off for you long term. But we have to do our job, and the member also has to follow through a little bit in order to realize the savings.
Well, and you also touched on it. So, what you guys are seeing right here on this slide, and we're about to move on to the other ones, you'll see $700 in shipping services, average overall, or, just, basically $1,100 for fleet and fuel. But I'm actually going to show you guys some case studies. So these are pulled from actual current ESA members and showing their savings. So you'll see that sometimes, these guys are saving tens of thousands of dollars, which definitely exceeds this average number. It's just spread across, a high volume of members that are making use of this program. So we'll kind of keep moving here. Program to date, approximately 500 ESA members are, at a total of $520,000 annually, with an average savings of $1,247 per member company. So again, this is definitely, you'll see some companies are definitely regionally are using more of a certain program compared to others. And I'm about to show you right here kind of how this is spread across all of our different companies. I'm going to break it down by company size so you guys can really see where you fit in and how relevant this program will be for you too. So right here, and I'm not going to read it off completely for y'all, but I'll kind of point out some of the key companies here. So for a company that has 1 to 5 employees, I have 2 companies here, one from Florida, one from North Carolina. You can see this is the actual savings. Year to date, right now in October of 2019, this is what they've saved so far. So you can see, a company from, company A, saved obviously over $1,000. That is a high return on investment for their membership. That is definitely I believe a multiple of 10 times. So they saved 10 times the amount that they paid to be a member, just from this program alone, just from making use of 3 simple vendors. And again, you have access to the entire list, so 30 plus vendors. And definitely depending on what company size you guys relate more to, and you'll kind of see what they're utilizing. Now, Mark, we're kind of seeing companies that are using 3, 4 program vendors. Are these guys, are the other program vendors just not relevant, or have they not really looked into some of those other vendors? Because we have 30 or more, but we see a small concentration. What would be a good drive to get them to be more involved in some of those other programs?
Good point. And what we found is the longer that we work with members, the more services they start to engage with. I think it's human nature that usually we spend our time on things that are either a huge opportunity or real concerns, or we have a pain point, let's say. And what I really encourage members to do is appoint someone in their organization is their, if you will call it, chief savings officer, somebody that's focused on decreasing expenses through our programs and is really accountable to the owner or the general manager, let's say, of the organization, because focus is needed to engage and then save. I mean, it's really that simple. And I can't tell you how many times I have members call me and say, Mark, I use this program, I use that program, and boy, I had no idea how much money we could save on tools or gasoline or whatever it might be. And then they say, boy, why didn't I do this 9 months ago or a year ago? And, that's a hard question to answer.
Right.
Because it really was at a certain point in time, they wanted to focus on this. And no one can change that until they're ready to focus. And as I said before to the folks that are on the call, I think you also, if you engaged with us after you joined ESA, you would be very, very glad that you did, that you took the hour or 2 that it takes to do some of the attachments with the suppliers, because you would really benefit.
Absolutely. I mean, and you guys can kind of see right here. So fuel, we see companies using this program a lot for, and it's saving them, huge on their annual, budget, to budget out for that fleet management, to send their guys out, and saving that much in fuel, instantly is you see a return on investment because you're able to, go to more homes or commercial projects or, government projects. You're able to travel more, which means more money for you guys. Also Granger for tools, things that your technicians, things that you are using constantly every day. These are huge savings that directly impact the functionality of your business. So you guys can kind of see currently what companies are using in these tiers. Moving on, so right here, some of the larger companies that we have, 16 to 25 employees. Company A out of North Carolina was saving over $15,000 a year on their tools and equipment through this one vendor. Looking at the 26 to 50 employees, a partnership program saving over 48,000, and looking at a company with 100+ employees out of Georgia, annually they saved over $43,000, and those are extreme multiples of what it costs to be a member. So they are absolutely not just seeing the return on investment, but really saving their company's annual budget moving into the next year. So, and again, this is year to date. This is just in October. So, hopefully, obviously, that they will save some more the remainder of the year. And we can also connect them with some other different partners and programs. Now, Mark, definitely we're seeing a lot of companies using Card Connect, payroll, office supplies, equipment rentals, gas is definitely across the board for those 500 companies that are using this program. Are these the most meaningful savings for members right now?
They are. The logos that you see on the screen right now are by far the most utilized programs. And one thing I just want to mention very quickly that's so important about getting started is many times, depending on the size of your operation, you're going to have different people dealing with these kind of different categories. You might have someone in the office that's your office manager dealing with your payroll, your office supplies, things of that nature. You might have someone that runs the staff, the field staff that deals with uniforms, gasoline, and shipping. Those are two very different people doing two very different jobs. So one of the things that's incredibly important is if you're the general manager or the owner of your company is getting those people involved, letting them know that there are discounts available on these different products and services, because if they don't know, chances are you're probably going to either delegate or assume that they're going to do that. So that's a real key, is communication to the right people about the right products and services that you can save money on.
Now, Mark, you were telling me a good anecdote earlier about Synchrony, and kind of tell the people on this call who may have never heard of Synchrony, how are our members using Synchrony? What is it, and how does it apply to their business?
Sure. It's Synchrony actually is the rebranding of the old GE Capital, which I think most people are very familiar with. They were sold and the naming rights had to sunset on GE Capital. So they renamed it Synchrony. Essentially, it's consumer financing. And this is a scenario where member companies can offer Synchrony financing with no cost to them at all, so that their consumer, if they need or desire financing for equipment, they can do that through Synchrony at very, very favorable rates. And the anecdote that Sophia and I were talking about was I had a testimonial actually yesterday that was given to me by it was a fencing company actually. And the gentleman said he just closed a $30,000 sale that he would not have been able to close without the financing. They put down 5 and they financed 25. And he said, without that, I would have lost the job to a competitor. So that's very compelling. So not only can we help you on the expense side with consumer financing, we can actually help you on the sales side as well.
So yeah, and just to make sure to clarify, this is financing for the consumer. So for you guys as clients, you know, and being able to, as the vendor to your clients, as the one providing the service, to open up options, you know, for your clientele, that definitely puts a more personal touch. That definitely opens up, you know, the conversation for more sales. And definitely creates a really good, positive, and honest relationship with your customer, and allows you to bring in more business, obviously. And now with Synchrony, Mark, so we have companies that are obviously working with residential as well as commercial markets. If their client is more of the commercial side, from the commercial standpoint, can their client that is a business, can they use Synchrony as well?
Yeah, they can, and each consumer obviously and or business stands on their own and their own credit merit. But yes, businesses can do that as well.
Great.
So I'd like to take a minute here before you continue on, just to give everyone a moment or two to type in some questions in the Q&A panel. We have one here from Gregory. We use some of these vendors, but since we are not a new customer, how would we receive a discount? Sophia, can you field that one?
Yeah, that's actually great. So, and Mark told me this, you know, this last year, you know, if you are already participating with this vendor and you're not a member, you can actually stack discounts. So say you're currently receiving a discount from a different program or a different association, you can stack discounts, or you can add this program. And Mark, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, you can, as a current customer of one of these vendors, you can now apply this discount. And I'm hoping I'm answering that question correctly. But Mark also kind of chime in here and speak to that as well.
Yeah, actually, I wish it was as straightforward as you said. Some of our vendors will indeed allow current customers of theirs to come in under our program and get better discounts. Some do not. It's not a clean answer. So it depends on the vendor. I'll give you one good example, which I think if anyone is using ADP savings alone can pay for your membership many times over. We have a 25% discount off of their retail rate, which is very, very strong. And if you were, let's say, at a 15 or a 5% discount, you can go up to the 25 just by saying, I want to do that. And ADP will allow us to transfer you from a coding perspective under the ESA member savings program, and then that discount will be applied up to the 25%. So that's a really good example of how if you're using ADP, why in the world wouldn't you want to, save more money and not change vendors?
Now, hey, Mark, and this might be a good time to bring this up. For some companies, they may not be using any kind of payroll service. For some that are smaller, more of a mom and pop shop, locally, that may not be something that they think would benefit them or they need. Could you speak to really what those benefits are and why they may, need to consider or reconsider their position on utilizing a payroll service?
Sure. Sometimes it makes sense. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. Obviously, there's a lot of companies that start up, and I was one of them when I started. You bootstrap, and especially if you're maybe a husband and wife team, a lot of times payroll will be done by the husband or the wife, and you keep doing that even though you hire more employees. At some point, it becomes a time versus money scenario. You're not paying anyone to do payroll, but you're being taken away from a lot of other activities that could generate sales for you, let's say, or better manage your operation, but you're doing bookkeeping. So at some point you have to make that decision on time versus money. But there's some other advantages with ADP. They have some benefit packages in addition to payroll, and because of their incredible buying power, they're able to offer that to you. So I would strongly encourage you to look at that. We actually have a vendor who will be on a webinar in a few weeks here called Payroll Mart, who we just consummated a deal with. And the bottom line there is they represent 4 different companies, including ADP and Paychex and a couple of others, because depending on the size of the business, some payroll providers are better for small companies, and some, including ADP, have historically been a little better for the larger companies.
Yeah, I'm rolling back here actually to the case study. So, you know, company A under the 1 to 5 employee structure, you know, they're actually utilizing ADP for payroll, and they're saving $917 and some change.
Yep.
And one thing that you mentioned too, those that, you know, are now that are spending that time doing bookkeeping instead of just, you know, operating and managing their business, you know, bookkeeping, that's critical for a small business, you know, and very crucial when it comes time for taxes. And, you know, so that those things not only will they affect your efficiency time-wise, but they could affect, you know, your income or, you know, or your expenses in the long term when you're trying to keep track of your employees and the payments and benefits or taxes. So that's one thing to kind of to think about, definitely when considering a payroll services, if you think that may not apply for you. And of course, you know, just to remind you guys again, we sit down and consult with y'all directly one-on-one and see what would be the most relevant, you know, program for you guys, for your business, and to see if we can actually help. So if you guys want to definitely, you know, try to dig in some more and see if any of those programs would be more relevant, we can absolutely sit down and take a look. So kind of jumping back to here, Mark, we have some things rolling out in 2020. You mentioned payroll, Mart, you know, signing that contract and coming on. What do we have coming up for 2020? I see Cintas and Fastenal. Can you tell everybody on here what Fastenal is, what Cintas provides, all that kind of good stuff?
Sure. Well, Cintas, as many of you probably are familiar with them, one of the leading uniform and facilities providers in the business. Very, very good outfit. We have UniFirst now. With Cintas, I think coming on board shortly, we'll cover the waterfront, and you'll have a very, very good choice between two different providers that do a nice job on facilities and uniforms. Fastenal, I think most of you may know them. We used to have a relationship with Grainger, and the numbers you saw before were on Grainger sales were from a pre-existing relationship with them. Fastenal is very, very well known, very large. They have 2,200 depots or branches, if you will, around the U.S. They have about 160 in Canada as well. If there's anybody listening in from Canada, they're going to give us specific SKUs, about 1,000 SKUs that are going to be discounted specifically based on the usage of members. And they will look at ESA and your industry specifically and come up with some special pricing for the most used SKUs. And UPS, obviously, goes without saying. We have a deal right now with FedEx, but by adding UPS, you'll have a choice between the big two. That is very exciting, in my opinion, because tools, which obviously hits home with the security industry, is a big one. And we are hoping to see an average discount of about 15% on most of the tools that you buy through Fastenal. So that alone, again, you look at that, what you spend on tools, you look at what you spend on gasoline and office supplies, computers, you know, you just start doing the math and look at the possibilities, and it's pretty exciting.
Definitely, and you hit on a great point that I have yet to mention. So ESA MSP, this program is applicable to companies even outside of the United States. So we do have a special program, you know, on some Canadian vendors. I don't know if we have any Canadians here on the call, but we do have some Canadian members that are utilizing this program, and we're hoping to expand some more. So yeah, thanks, Mark, for hitting on that. So this is a great member testimonial, Mark, and kind of talk to me about what Ralph said, and you know, if you want to read it, go ahead, because definitely these are coming to you.
Okay, gotcha. For some reason, my computer doesn't like the Zoom anymore, so I got disconnected. But I remember it well. Ralph Manento is a terrific guy. Some of you may know him. He's out of Pennsylvania. He's been in the security business, I dare say, at least 30 years. Terrific individual. And when I first started working with ESA, I saw him at one of the trade shows, and he said, what do you got? And he was able to be very open and listen to what we're talking about here today. And he went back to his son, who was kind of transitioning to take over the business, and said, I want you to look at this stuff. I want you to listen to this guy. It's my money. It's my business. I want you to make this happen. And sure enough, he did. And I forget off the top of my head how many services they engaged with. I believe it was 6 or 8. And Ralph was just a big believer, and he's a bottom line kind of guy, and he got what we're doing and why we're doing it. And he totally got on board. And he took advantage of, I believe, ADP, which he already had. So he said, why wouldn't I do that? And I said, you're right, Ralph. Let's make it happen. So he had his son do what paperwork was necessary to get him connected to our program, and he started saving, and the gasoline programs and a number of others. And Ralph is just a tremendous guy, and I think probably an icon in the security business.
Yeah, and so I'll kind of read the last couple of sentences here. He said that our monthly bill, fuel bill, went from over $2,800 a month to $2,250 a month, with all of the savings utilizing the programs, the buying group's member savings program offers. We can utilize the savings in other areas. These savings alone pay for our yearly dues many times over, which is a point we've really touched on. But to hear it from someone who is actually, an ESA member that is, engaging with the program and the different vendors, it's really great to hear. Mark, you also kind of pointed out that you have these personal relationships, and you're working with these owners and their companies, and kind of caring for them, providing them the most value, and allowing them to grow. And that's, I really think, a great human kind of compassionate component, because it isn't about the sales, it's about the savings.
Right. And, where my satisfaction comes in is when I go to the annual shows and I see someone that I recognize, we've talked on the phone, or maybe we saw each other at the last show, and I've got my reports with me that show what's happened over the last year in terms of what they've utilized and what they've spent and what they've saved. And it gives me a lot of satisfaction to talk to those people and say, oh, yeah, I've got a report right here. Yep, last year you saved $5,000, $10,000, whatever the number was. And, paid for your dues many, many times over, and they're happy. And it's a good scenario. And most members that do take the time to engage are very happy that they did.
Definitely. All right, so let's talk about Benefit Hub. So this is what I mentioned earlier, the other side of the coin. We just went over the B2B side. This is the B2C portal. This is available not just to the owners of our member companies, but to all employees of that company. This equates, you can see here, about a 8.5% raise. And I mentioned the last webinar that I hosted earlier, and talking about employee retention. A lot of companies, especially the larger ones, but also the medium-sized ones and the smaller ones, are kind of getting on board. They are offering their employees what we call an affinity program. So perks of being an employee, and savings, and also discounts on purchases that they're making on a consumer standpoint. This is a great portal. I got a call from the owner of a member company last December. It was right around Christmas time. Obviously, him and his employees were busy doing a lot of purchasing from stores, a lot of restauranting, making holiday travel plans. This program was huge for them, and he called me up and just raved about it. So I actually took a really great screenshot video here. We're going to walk you through the Benefit Hub portal. Again, owners that are on the call, all of your employees will have access to this portal, so they will be able to engage with it. Kind of just play here. We'll scroll through the program, kind of get an idea as to what's included. So you kind of see that it's broken down obviously into categories. So electronics, finance, insurance, pets, sports, travel, tickets. This really covers pretty much anything on a consumer standpoint. It is a really great program. Mark, have you heard anything specifically about this program from those engaging with it?
Yeah, they're very, very happy, and I call it like the cherry on top for the member companies, because if you can save your dues many, many times over on the business services and then offer yourself, your family, and your staff and their family the access to this program to save on restaurants and travel and clothing and many, many different categories, everybody feels great about it. You're providing a benefit to your staff. Actually this program has 5 of the top 10 employers in the United States on board. Boeing's employees have access to this program. Walmart's employees have access to this program. And again, back to, as I mentioned, why I started this business, it's all about volume. And that's why these discounts are very real, is because of the volume. Between the employees of the top employers, you've got over 20 million people that have access and are buying through this portal. So when different vendors, they love that. They would love to market and have access to the eyeballs of 20 million people. So that's why these discounts are very real. But members, pet insurance, for example, you know, it might seem obscure to some people, but to other people, they lament, I've spent, you know, $1,500 over the last couple of years on my pet, who I love so much. And so all of a sudden, pet insurance is a very real concern to them from a budgeting standpoint, and this helps them. So we've got that. Actually, over 1,100 vendors are in this consumer portal. So you can play with it, poke around it, see what deals are out there, and I think you'll be very pleased.
Absolutely. You know, it's funny, my mom works for Northrop, and they have this portal, they have this program, and she raves about it. And quite honestly, I use it often myself. I travel quite a bit for work and also personally. You know, so this saves me huge on not just flights or hotels, it saves me on rental cars. We're kind of going through the brands right here. You can see on your screen, here's some other insurance opportunities. So again, not just for you, but also for your employees, for their family, you know, different vendors from that front. Teledoc, I don't know if you saw that was on there as well. Life insurance. Oh yeah, we're going to get into auto. Love this one. So this is a great program to finance, to refinance, to purchase. Also, you'll see some airport parking savings on there. This is absolutely huge. This is a wonderful program to get involved with, and you're saving huge on some of those fun toys you may be buying. So you saw some motorcycle, RV, you know, not just rental cars, but cars, golf carts, I believe I saw on there. So this again really touches on some of those big consumer purchases that really you're always making. I think we're going to get into now. We saw on there, you know, you not only get discounts, but you also have the ability to have cash back on some of those purchases. Again, saving you guys some more money, and you can redeem that cash back. Just kind of giving you guys a insight into this consumer portal. I think we'll kind of just keep going here.
Does anyone have any questions about savings on business expenses or consumer expenses, or how to become an ESA member? I just want to take a second here for you to type in any questions that you have in your control panel, or for those viewing on Facebook Live, simply type in a comment there and we can pose that to the experts.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thanks, Jillian. So, and this is us wrapping up anyways. Definitely any questions. If you have some specific vendor or you know, program questions, I'll be providing our contact information. If you want to look at the full vendor list, you can always check out esaweb.org/membership. We have a great calculator on there for you to input what you're already spending on some of these common business expenditures, and you can kind of calculate what you could save by engaging in these programs. So definitely check that out. That can give you a pretty good ballpark amount there. I don't know, Jillian, I don't know if any questions have come in yet. We'll give them some time, but I want to make sure to leave this on the screen. You can set up a meeting with me at esaweb.org/meet Sophia, or you can give me a call to my direct line, which is 972-807-6824. And we can definitely see what your cost of membership would be, what some of your savings could potentially be through this program, and see how we can form fit this around you and your company.
So as it relates to ESA membership, Sophia, could you speak a bit to the additional savings that there are embedded in membership, such as training and certification, insurance, sales coaching?
Absolutely. So we have existed since 1948. So we've been in the center of the industry and really know our company's ins and outs. Our companies are national. They're from the entire United States. So we know what it takes to run your business and how much it costs. So we have other savings through our national training school on your licensing and certifications for you and your employees, those that are state required. And I'm sure, as most of y'all know, those are pretty expensive at cost. So we provide our members the opportunity to save $100 per course on some of those base courses or more. We also have a wonderful insurance company that was made specifically for the security industry, saving members 20 to 25% on their policy premiums, offering general liability, errors and omissions, umbrella coverage, commercial auto, as well as workers' comp and cybersecurity coverage. So we really try to offer our members the opportunity to really thrive in the industry. I think I said it last webinar, and I'll kind of keep repeating it because it's a wonderful adage. Rising tide lifts all ships, and really the best way to improve and to grow is to make the most of what you have available. So as an association, we try to provide that platform. And again, this contact information, if anything else that I touched on, like training, licensing, and certifications, or insurance coverage for your business, if those things interest you as well, just please reach out and we'll have a great conversation about what we can do for you. And Mark, I want to say thank you too for coming on and helping me share the message of MSP and providing a greater view as to what we offer our members through this program, and some of the upcoming vendors that we have coming on that I think really will expand the program and expand its usage. And I really appreciate it. You've really been there in the trenches helping all of our members, and hopefully we can continue to do so on a greater scale. And hopefully those that are non-members on the call will definitely want to see what we can do for them. So thank you, Mark, again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thanks a lot for the opportunity to, share what we do and how we do it with everyone. And I think if people come on board with ESA, they'll be very pleased from all the industry knowledge, best practices, and our programs can quantify the return on their investment as well. So thanks. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. It all comes down to the bottom line and that hard number value. And just through this program alone, membership definitely provides that.
All right, everybody. I don't see any additional questions on Facebook or through our webinar platform. So with that, I'll give you the rest of your day. Thank you for joining us, and check out the on-demand video at esaweb.org. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Take care. Bye.